7 on KSJE Farmington. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, your community hospital with a rich heritage that dates back to before New Mexico was a state. We've been improving the health of the Four Corners since 1910. As a nonprofit hospital, San Juan Regional Medical Center is a values-driven organization. We strive to deliver on our mission to personalize health care and create vitality and enthusiasm in healing. We are here for you when you need us, offering a comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency care services. .35. It is Tuesday morning here on KSJE, October 30th. I'm Scott Michlin. You're listening to the Scott Michlin Morning Program here on KSJE and watching the program as well on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for tuning in today. Taking a look at the weather forecast outside right now, it's 44 degrees in Farmington with winds out of the east at 3 miles per hour. And the forecast calls for a mostly cloudy day today with a chance of showers this afternoon, 62 for a high in Farmington. Overnight, though, a chance of rain and snow possible with a low of 35. Sunshine and cooler tomorrow with a high of 54 on Halloween, but a cold Halloween night, 33. 58 in sunshine Thursday, 62 in sunshine by Friday, and overnight lows in the mid-30s. I'm Scott Michlin, and my guest on the radio this morning from the Bloomfield Municipal School District, Superintendent Dr. Mizell is here, continuing our conversation. And Dr. Mizell, again, good morning. Good morning. Good to have you here. We've been talking a bit about some of the strategic planning that you are doing in the Bloomfield District, and also some of the grants that the district's been awarded that helps with a lot of specific programs and services for your students. I also want to ask you a bit about security. I know that's on the minds of a lot of folks. The school district has spent a considerable amount of money on security in the last few months.
Over the last year combined, it's about $475,000. But we've put in secured fencing to control the traffic in and out of our high school. We also put in intercom systems where you can't gain access to the high school unless you get buzzed in. And all the principals, the athletics department, the secretaries all have buzz-in systems so that we don't delay the buzzing in because if it's not properly manned. We have the buzz-in system in all our schools, so you really can't gain access unless you're let in. We've done some screen, like window protections where you can't see children through the windows, especially at our early childhood center and at Blanco, and there to deter the visual approach to looking into the schools. Right. All the several foyer areas. Blanco, they're scheduled to redo their foyer, but we also installed numerous cameras at that school. It's a little more remote. But the foyer changes happened at Bloomfield Early Childhood Center, and at the junior high, we made the adjustment there where there's one more barrier for gaining access to the general population. So it's a controlled environment where they can go in, check in, and get buzzed in, and then we allow them to have access. But we don't have easy traffic into the student population. For next year, we're going to look at modifying the high school's entry area and Naba'ani's entry area. Oh, and Central's also we did the one more barrier, so we have 3 schools that we've done that. Okay. And it's each of those are fairly expensive. They're doors and entrance and intercoms and right, and not just any door. It's like security doors and things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're talking about. And I was surprised when you told me before we came on the air this morning that this was all pretty much self-funded from the school district's budget. We'd heard that there was money available from the state, but not so much of it got to Bloomfield. No, when we went over obviously I talked about we're very aggressive about applying for grants. Yeah. We went over the requirements, and Bloomfield had already done a lot of the things that you were allowed to apply for. I see. So most of the stuff that Bloomfield is I would say, very secure. We're working on even making it more secure. But we had already done all the projects. So and I was hoping that there might be some kind of reimbursement process for that work, because we started the process in September of last school year. But there were no funds for reimbursement. Uh-huh. And even with the allocation, Albuquerque got the majority of it.
Got it.
And I think it's on a need basis. I think CCSD received quite a bit. Their schools needed some assistance that way as well. And so, there wasn't a lot of money to be had. I think it was $10 million total.
Once it starts getting divided up around the state.
$30 million over 3 years.
Right.
So it goes away real fast.
Right.
But we're hopeful with the new money that's $2 billion. Maybe they'll have a new wave of applications, and we'll be definitely looking at that, because we want to shore up our entrances to some of the other schools.
Sure. And the new money you're talking about is what we are hearing for the state legislature in the new year, that there is unanticipated revenue from much of it coming from southeast New Mexico with all the oil and gas activity, but I imagine good bit maybe coming from our area too, as the industry revs back up, hopefully.
We hope.
But that is coming into the state more than they expected, and so it's up to the legislature and the new governor, as you've mentioned, to decide how to spend this new money. And a lot of folks are thinking and hoping it may come to public education.
The latest number I had heard that possibly 20% will be allocated to education, which is a significant amount of money.
Right. After years of just flat
right.
or cut budgets, right?
And I think that Martinez-Yazzie lawsuit is contributing to that. They're trying to figure out how they can support the schools better. We've been underfunded for years. And I think KOB-TV did a special on it. So I advise people to go look at what it, even though the money seems like we're getting a lot now, it's still less than it was several years ago. In the previous, probably 10 years ago.
Right. A lot of folks refer to things before the Great Recession, I think maybe 2008, and we're still not maybe back to those levels, yet other costs have gone up.
Yeah, and so I found that report to be interesting, so I want to make sure that people look at that. And it's real quick, but gives you an idea of what we are dealing with and the reason for the districts suing the state that were involved in it. Bloomfield was not involved, but we're with underfunded and unfunded mandates is what has caused some of the things, and I can contribute, like the leveling up of teachers that sometimes is not always funded. It wasn't funded early on, and then some of the mandates as far as assessments. Making sure that we are doing all the park assessment and paying for additional assessments to monitor our progress. A lot of
you have to do it, but
we
you're
have
not
to
paid
do it, but we don't really get money for
to help
it.
You do it. Yeah.
So you have to manage your funds really well, and then being a new superintendent coming in, I was really working on getting all these grant applications and putting money in my reserve funds to get ready to give raises and do things for the district that I wanted to do, and then they clawed back money from my
little savings account.
So
there went that.
That was a setback. So it's just it's been a learning process, and it's been kind of frustrating. But I know that our district is moving in the right direction to help students be successful, and we are showing it in our school grades, and I'm very pleased about where we are in the process. We still have a lot of work to do, and that's why we did the strategic planning process and continue to want to improve.
And as you mentioned, it does take some time, I suppose, to really turn things around and really get students and staff and everybody moving in the same direction in this world of instantaneous gratification and microwave ovens, and things are done in 30 seconds. For things like this that you're talking about, it may take a school year or a couple of school years to see some of this growth in your student body, right?
Research. I reference research. Research says it takes 3 to 5 years to turn and change a culture, environment, the academic achievements. And I would say within 3 years we have accomplished turning our district around. And that's why in 5 years, let's be hopeful that we're performing even better. Part of the process is, educating everybody involved, parents, community, children, the teachers, the stakeholders that we work for and provide services for. And it's a lot of times it's a philosophical change, which is hard for a lot of people. I mean, if you're not philosophically aligned with really being strategic with your instruction in the classroom and making sure you're utilizing collected data to make the adjustments in the classroom. The cycle we have now is every quarter, at the 7th week, we do an interim assessment on the standards that are aligned with our state standards and curriculum. And then also it is well aligned with the park, because we use former park questions to develop the questioning within it. And it's K-12 that we have this. And so the next 2 weeks, you have 2 weeks to reteach those standards to the children that didn't get it. And so we have the teachers do action plans to address those individual children. So it's getting really to the child's needs. And we've been working on refining that, and I'm really pleased to say that it's in every school. And it's a lot of work for teachers, and I know that, but it's purposeful and strategic in how we can address the needs of each child.
And as you mentioned, you're seeing the results.
Yes.
In a positive way.
We are.
And that's important. Dr. Mizell, in the minutes that we have remaining, I do want to ask you a bit about enrollment. I've asked the other superintendents about their enrollment, and it seems like numbers are down throughout the county, and Bloomfield, I guess, is no different, unfortunately, right?
Right. We are down 218 students. So right now we're looking to find $1 million within our district, and
that equates to about $1 million in funding for you.
Yes, when you look at all the funding formulas, which is special ed, federal programs, and the state unit value for individual children.
Right.
And so very concerned, and we kind of have a little bit of a freeze on hiring, except for the grants that we're trying to find people. Sure. And like special ed, we always need special ed teachers, but it's a case-by-case situation at the sites. One school's down three classrooms, so we're really, when we start doing staffing, I've already informed the principals. I said, you're going to have to plan ahead. Right now, we're going to try to maintain what we have to keep the class sizes small. We will always try to stay within the state regulations with class size, but we may be pushing the limit on some of those.
Right.
So it's always a difficult time of the year to try to figure out where you're going to be. And what happens with that is it happens immediately. Well, basically in our January STG, we will be seeing less money come into Bloomfield because
it happens that quickly.
Gotcha. So it's not like next year we'll have to deal with it. We deal with it now.
Right.
And that's the reason why we have to do kind of a freeze on what we're doing in the district.
And certainly I know there's a lot of folks that try to look into the reasons behind the drop in enrollments, and it seems a lot of it is just economic. It is the situation that we've been living through in the community with the lack of or decrease, I should say, in jobs, maybe in the oil field, the natural gas fields, things like that, and some of the layoffs at some of the other companies that we've been hearing about maybe finally trickling down to really forcing these families to move and look for work elsewhere. Is that what you're seeing and hearing?
Well, the largest company in Bloomfield just laid off 50 people, 50% of their staff, not people, 50%.
Wow. Right.
So, and we're hearing from our principals that the families are relocating. Some of them are going to Pennsylvania, Houston, and down in southern New Mexico. They're going to where the jobs are in the oil and gas industry. And this was big. This one has hit Bloomfield quite significantly. And so, and I know many people personally that lost their jobs. So it's been very difficult.
Yeah. Very much. And so again, it's the school district though that keeps educating the kids that are here and working with those numbers and making those numbers work.
Right. And we run a tight ship. We're very lean at the top, and so hopefully we'll weather this storm okay. Right now I've put measures in place to do that, but I'm anticipating even more students being gone in December because a lot of families will choose to stay until the semester's over and then they relocate.
Interesting. Well, I know you'll be back to let us know how things go, so I appreciate that very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Dr. Mizell, thank you for being here. Dr. Kim Mizell, my guest here on KSJE from the Bloomfield School District, and I'll be back with much more in just a moment here on KSJE. The time is 8:49.